It's time to wake to sleep with Sleep Science Today, where we learn to sleep well with your host, Andrew Colsky on UK Health Radio.
Welcome to Sleep Science Today, the show where we talk everything sleep and the science to support it. I'm your host, Andrew Colsky. Today, we're going to be talking with Tess Cheng, who is a certified health and wellness coach, and she talks about sleep as part of overall well-being. So Tess, welcome, and could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, Andrew, hello. I'm Tess Cheng, a health and wellness coach, and I'm based in Miami Beach. I've been practicing as a coach for quite some time. But originally, I was actually a nutritionist for quite a number of years when I was living in Los Angeles. But then I realized that, food is not really the only thing that actually keeps our health going. Other things work together, for example, like sleep, exercise, stress management, social connections, all those things, work together to actually give us optimal health. So with wellness coaching, I really help people build sustainable lifestyle habits. And it's really the behaviors that's what we are actually working on.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, you hit upon a lot of things there, and the behavior part, sleep is such a behavioral process in many, many ways, and those are the ways that we can actually help people improve their sleep is by improving their behaviors related to. But before we go further into that, I need to ask the question. You said you live in Miami Beach. The weather has got to be beautiful there all the time, is it?
Yes, it is. It's really sunny. I'm right by the beach, so it's wonderful. In the morning, I can just go for a swim. I can go for a walk and get some fresh air. Whenever, I find that I'm staring at the screen for too long, as we do these days, I remind myself and I just go out for a quick walk.
Wow, that's got to be great for your overall health and wellness. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, and I had an opportunity at one point earlier in my career to live right across the street from the beach, and it was beautiful because I'd come home from work, take the walk on the beach, relax. The sunlight is going down, the darkness is coming. Talk about getting yourself prepared for a night of sleep. That's just a great way to do it.
Definitely, yes. It really makes a difference when the weather is so nice and you just feel that you can just go outside a lot.
Right.
I grew up in England, so this is a dream to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, because our audience is all over the world and many of them don't have the opportunity to take a walk on the beach before they go to bed. So this is where all of your work comes in, especially for people who don't have that option. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you first come to the realization that sleep was an important part of overall wellness?
I think intuitively, even when I was a lot younger, I wasn't in the wellness field, I wasn't in nutrition field. And just for myself, I knew that when I had a bad night of sleep, I just felt lousy all day. I couldn't function. And then that night, of course, then I sleep really well. And the next day, I just feel like a new person from the day before. And I started doing a lot of research when I was a nutritionist, and a lot of my clients, would say to me, "Oh, I'm tired. I don't know why." And even after they made some amazing dietary changes, they still don't have energy. They get tired in the afternoon, and they find that they have to keep drinking coffee all day to keep themselves up. So I started getting interested and do a lot of research. Read the first book on sleep by Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep.
Very popular.
Amazing. The funny thing is that my niece, who is an airline pilot, when she was going through the training in Australia, she's in Hong Kong, they were all given this book. because they want, they wanted the, the pilots to understand the importance of sleep and how important it is for them to have the rest when they are not working. And after that, after reading that book, I just got really interested, and I thought, it really is linked to our cognitive function, our brain health, and a lot of things that we can actually do to improve our sleep quality and quantity. There you go. So yeah, it's amazing.
Right. It's interesting you're talking about the airlines, and at least here in the U.S., I don't know about other countries, we actually have regulations related to airline pilots, truck drivers, people who are, carrying precious cargo, whether it be people or on the highways, things like that. And it's actually, if they have sleep apnea, they are required to show that they're properly treating it on a regular basis, or they may not be able to continue flying or driving or whatever. That's how important we recognize sleep to be here.
Oh, yes. And I understand that a lot of car accidents have actually been caused by the drivers have falling asleep, even even just for a few seconds. Micro sleep, I think that's what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I talk to clients about that all the time, and I explain to them that sleepy driving is just as dangerous as drunk driving.
Yeah.
And it's because if you're exhausted, if you have not gotten restful sleep, you will take little micro naps, and that could mean just a fraction of a blink where you just do this quick little nap, and next thing you know, you've run through an intersection, or you've run into the car behind you, or run over a pedestrian, and it's very, very dangerous. And people think that because they're not using any drug or substance that how can it be that dangerous? Well, factually we see that it really is.
Yes,
So,
yes. I hear that when you are really sleep deprived, it's like being drunk. That's
yeah.
just disturbing.
Yeah, yeah. So with that, can you tell us, when you're working with clients of your own, what are some of the mental and emotional signs that you see that tell you that somebody is not getting restorative sleep?
They would say to me, "Oh, I'm just in a very bad mood. I'm having difficulties regulating my emotions, and more irritable." And the other thing is also they find that they have different, it's the mental state, but then they feel that because they're so tired, they need to be eating more to give them that, that energy to stay awake. And very often they find they also get a lot of anxiety, things become more overwhelming. Just little things. Normally it's not such a big deal, but then after a night of terrible sleep, they just don't have any capacity to deal with it.
Right. So when a client comes to you initially, are they coming to you because they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I've got sleep problems," or are they coming to you because they have a more generic, they're just not feeling 100%?
They normally say something about, "Oh, I don't feel good. I don't understand why, because I exercise a lot." And very often they want to focus on their eating habits, for example, because they want to lose certain weight, or they want to manage their high blood pressure. But during the process, I always ask them about their sleep, every one of them, right at the beginning, because I want to understand what kind of habits they have, and if sleep is actually impacting on all the other aspects of their health. And at the same time, to me, sleep is just as important as whether you brush your teeth, every night, oral hygiene. So it's something I always find out from someone. And I have to say that with almost every one of them, because a lot of my clients are over the age of 50 in general, 40 sometimes, but a lot of them are in their 50s and 60s. Because some of them, they want to prevent developing chronic diseases or manage the ones they have.
Right.
And I find that with people over the age of 50, almost every one of them tells me that they have sleep issues.
Yeah, I experience the same thing in my practice. And part of it is because our body and our systems change with age. And, we have tons of research that shows that the changes in sleep patterns based upon the person's age. So, when they come to you and they're trying to improve their overall health and they tell you that they've had some issues with sleep, do you find that many of them or any of them have already turned to like supplements or medications or something to help improve their sleep?
Yes, very often they have. Unfortunately, a lot of them actually got sleep medications because it's easy. So if they feel so lost, they really don't know what to do. So they normally talk to their doctors. And what are doctors going to do? They're not going to have a whole hour trying to find out whether what their sleep hygiene is, whether what they do before they sleep or after they've got up, and what they do all day. They just don't have the time to coach them, and so doctors will say, well, would you like to try some sleep medications? Or they have friends who take them, and the friends say, oh yeah, I sleep like a baby after taking them, and it works for me. And so they are more inclined to take the medications. And of course, once they started taking them, if the medication works, it's very difficult for them to say, oh, okay, let me try other things, because they're so afraid of not being able to fall asleep that night.
Right. Yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. And I wonder, do any of them come to you and say, hey, I started these sleep medications and, I got, whatever effect it is they got, but I don't want to be on medications because I'm concerned about the long-term effects. I'm concerned about not being able to sleep naturally. Do any of them come to you and say, I want off? I don't want to have to use these things?
They do, yes, and yes. Encouragingly, some of them do, and I always point out to them that all medications have side effects, and sleep medications can be very addictive, just like pain medications. So we were trying to work out the process, and then this way we will have one of the goals as sleep improvement. But the interesting thing is that some other people take supplements. They try melatonin or magnesium, and sometimes it works for them and sometimes it doesn't, but then we don't know what the behaviors are.
Right.
So if I don't know if they're drinking coffee till 5 in the afternoon, and even with something like caffeine, it affects people differently, and some people swear by that they're so adamant that I can drink coffee till I go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night.
Right. Well, one of the ironic things about the sleep medication part, and I've said this on other shows because I believe in it so strongly, is that I understand that people feel desperate when they're having trouble sleeping and they don't know what to do, and it's understandable. They're going to go to a sleep doctor and it's going to give them medication. But the interesting thing is they come to you and they say, I'm interested in my overall wellness because I want to prevent future problems from coming. And the real interesting thing is that most sleep medications, the prescription ones, knock you out. They're sedatives as opposed to anything else.
That's right.
And the challenge with sedatives is they will bring you into stage 1 and stage 2 sleep, but they don't bring you to stage 3 sleep. And stage 3 sleep is the stage where your brain starts to clear out all of the amyloid plaque and the things that are associated with dementia. So by taking medications, you're getting knocked out, you're not being put to sleep, and you're not getting the sleep that you need to get longer your health is not being properly addressed because you're not getting that sleep. And so they're actually causing harm to what they're trying to improve. So let me stop us here real quick for a commercial break, and we'll come back and let's pick up there. So we'll be right back on Sleep Science Today. You're watching Sleep Science Today. If you enjoy our show, please help support us by pressing the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. It'll really help us get seen, and it'll help you stay informed. Okay, welcome back to Sleep Science Today. We're talking with Tess Cheng about sleep. I'm your host, Andrew Colsky. So we were talking about sort of the irony of sleep medications, is that they may knock you out, but they don't actually give you sleep in most cases. So Tess, you were about to talk about supplements and all. What type of supplements do your clients try? What do they report about them?
Melatonin seems to be the most popular one, especially when it comes to jet lag. And they find that some people find that it works and some don't, but then it also depends on the dose and what they do before and afterwards. And some of them also try magnesium. Magnesium has other benefits anyway. So but in general, the results are not consistent.
Yeah. And one of the other things that is important is, you're right, melatonin, you go into the drugstore and there's probably, a whole several shelves worth of different brands and all. And what's interesting is the typical doses that you'll find in a drugstore would be 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams. And the science shows that if you take too much melatonin, it can actually have the reverse impact.
Yeah.
Really, what you need is between 0.3 to 1 milligram of melatonin max, but everybody seems to think that more is better.
Yes, they do. They do. And also with melatonin, I understand that it helps you to fall asleep, but it doesn't help you to maintain sleep. And a lot of people do have a problem with that. They don't have a problem falling asleep, but they wake up and they have trouble falling asleep again.
Yeah, and melatonin is the thing that is tied to our circadian rhythms, and that's what creates this sort of sleep pattern for us, and melatonin is part of that process. There's two things that make us fall asleep and stay asleep. One is sleep pressure. The other is our circadian rhythm. And when they're in line with each other, we will fall asleep, get a solid night's rest, and then wake up. But when they're not in line, or when we have these other habits and behaviors that you were talking about, that can really throw us off. So out of curiosity, what types of habits and behaviors do you see your clients engage in that you're realizing have a negative impact on number one, their sleep, but on their health overall?
Well, because the people I coach tend to be very busy, they're executives, so they travel a lot. Whether it means getting on a plane or attending a conference or having business dinners, with their clients. So they tend to eat very late. And not only that, they tend to have large meals and very often with quite a bit of alcohol. And so they would have a huge meal until 10 o'clock at night, and then they go home, they expect to be able to fall asleep right away. And so that's something I really notice. And a lot of people don't realize that, it's better to eat earlier. It's healthier anyway than later, and eating late really disrupts sleep. And so that's something that I always try to get them to do. It's not easy with a demanding schedule. Then I suggest to them, how about if you're going to have a meal that's quite late that night in a restaurant, then have a bigger lunch. And so when you get to the restaurant, eat something light rather. Mm-hmm. That's one of the strategies.
Yeah, and I certainly hear what you're saying when they've got this busy schedule and they say, well, I want to eat earlier, but I've got this meeting, or I've got that conference, or I'm going to be on an airplane, or whatever. It makes it challenging. I appreciate the suggestion that you had of do the bigger lunch and get the lighter dinner. Are there other things that you do with your clients to help them kind of start to put these things into practice for themselves?
Yes, another one, of course, talking about melatonin is blue light. Because very often they are checking emails, looking at their phones, checking on their devices till late at night, just, and they don't actually stop until they go to sleep. And that really has an impact. So I suggest to them, have a wind down hour, so to have something more relaxing. And also when you're looking at your phone or something, you never know what might pop up. It could be something stimulating, something that might be upsetting. So it's unpredictable. So if you have an hour of wind down time, then listen to some music, read a book, not from your screen, but a real book, or even audio book, which is great because it gives your eyes a rest. Or have a nice hot shower. Just have that process and prepare yourself to sleep.
Right. Wow. So I'm curious, thinking about the various different clients you have and the various different issues that they work on. Do you have any sort of success stories that could give us a good example to understand exactly what it looks like when a client comes to you? They say, I'm just, I don't feel the best, and I really want to improve things. Walk us through what does that look like? What do they come in with? What do they say? What do you do? Even tell us more about not just sleep, but give us the whole picture.
Yeah. I have lots of those stories to share. One particularly stands out. It's actually a client I worked with. He was starting his own business, and so he was very stressed. He was in his 50s, and he's married with children, and has a family. So he came to me and he just said, I've tried everything, but I just feel terrible every day. I wake up, I'm stressed. I don't sleep well. I try to exercise, but it's hard, sometimes. And I have a craving for sugar, for all kinds of things that I know are not bad, are not actually good for me. And I find I'm very snappy as well. I get into arguments easily with my spouse, and I know this can't continue, and I don't want to get burnt out. So together we come, I ask him about, all the questions, that normally, and try to find out what actually really goes on and what his routines are and what he does, when it comes to eating, even whether he's keeping up with hydration. And then, how from the moment he wakes up to the moment when he actually goes to bed, what actually really goes on. And it transpired that he would to relax at night. He would watch TV just to wind down, because he just had such a busy, draining day. We established some habits for him to try, something to actually be, so he stays more structured, because his meetings are, his business work, when he comes to his work, he's really structured, and that's how a lot of them are. But when it comes to wellness habits, they think that, I would just keep them in mind. I think, I just have to drink some water, and then whenever I can remember, I just drink it. All these things going on, and then of course they don't happen. And just like sleep, they think, I will go to bed, when I finish all these things, and and then when the time comes, of course, then you find yourself being awake till midnight because there's always something to do.
Right.
So I think being prepared, preparation is important. Coming to bed or going to bed, or even when it comes to food, when you get up in the morning, and actually having a structure. Having scheduling things in, just like you would with meetings.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of things going on there, but I bet a lot of people listening can, resonate with that type of a lifestyle, because that is so common today. We get caught up not only in work that has all these requirements, but then, if you have kids, you're trying to take care of them and get them to school and soccer matches and, taekwondo, whatever it is that they're doing. And, you're rushing around, and traffic can be difficult to get through. And, everything is, you're always running late, and then you end up staying up late. It's not easy. you talk about food as part of wellness and a good plan for yourself. What types of foods are good? What types of foods should people, avoid? Tell us more about the food part.
Food. Well, I happen to like sardines. They actually, I find them tasty, but they are very nutritious. They're high in omega-3s, and of course, a lot science shows that omega-3s are really really important for brain health,
Hmm.
and they are essential fatty acids. So the body doesn't produce them, so we have to get the fatty acids from foods, and so I also like the fact that sardines are low in mercury.
Hmm.
A lot of fish happens, because of course, just the nature of, for example, tuna happens to be high in mercury because it's a big fish. But sardines are small and they can be delicious, and also with a tin like that, like a can like that, you can have it with you. You can keep it in the cupboard. Very handy. Yeah.
Right. Doesn't require refrigeration or any of that.
No, no. I even traveled with them. I've even brought them to a airline lounge where I would just open one up and have them with my salad. So it's really versatile. And so fatty fish, I would suggest, wild salmon, for example, and when it comes to and fruits and vegetables, I think it's high quality protein, and fruits, avocados, low sugar fruits, blueberries. I love blueberries. It's the summer season. You get a lot of blackberries. I also, if lean protein like chicken, organic chicken, grass-fed beef. All these are very good sources. I think when it comes to food, I think we have to look at it. Is very important is the mindset. I know that we're supposed to get joy from food, from eating, having a meal. So it's very sociable. It's wonderful, but at the same time, it's also nourishment.
Right.
So it has to give you the nutrients that you want. And when you are having something that's unhealthy, you are depriving your body that opportunity of having something good for you.
Right. Right. Right.
Because there's only so much you can eat.
Yeah. I'm thinking about what you're saying, and then I'm thinking about the example client that you gave. And what I'm picturing is someone who says, well, yeah, it's really hard for me to get a lot of the fresh fruits and vegetables and things. So I rely upon protein bars and a lot of the sort of health food types of things that are on the market, and I'm curious what your response is about those. But before we get to that, let's take another quick commercial break and we'll be right back and get your answer. So this is Sleep Science Today. We'll see you on the other side. You're watching Sleep Science Today. If you enjoy our show, please help support us by pressing the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. It'll really help us get seen, and it'll help you stay informed. All right, welcome back to Sleep Science Today. We're talking with Tess Cheng. We were just talking about the client who's trying to eat healthy, and they don't have time to get a lot of fresh things from the grocery all the time because things go bad so quickly today. And so they rely upon protein bars and all of these health foods that are marketed. What's the deal with those? Pro, con?
Protein bars, yes. A lot of people think, oh, protein bars, they must be good for you. But then I would try to show them what the food labels do. It's very important when it comes to food choices to actually read the food labels and to actually look at the ingredients and see what's actually in them. And of course, with protein bars, very often they have a lot of sugar or they're high in carbs. And sodium even. And if someone's got high blood pressure, that person has to be quite mindful of the sodium intake. So everything you eat, you need to be careful about that. And with protein bars, very often they're high in sugar, high in sodium, and with all the ingredients that we don't know about, we actually don't understand. There's a whole list of them. So I try to get them to understand that fresh food is really, the way to go, not highly processed food. So part of the program that I do is actually show clients how to read food labels. We even go to a supermarket sometimes and do a supermarket tour. It's really fun. People are amazed what's actually on packaging, because manufacturers, they are in business to sell foods. So they don't care. They put whatever they want on the front because they can. By law, they can't do anything. They can write anything on the front, and they would try to do things to distract you. They would say organic potato chips, low fat. But then when you look on the back, it's actually very high in sodium or high in sugar even. So I try to tell them that. And also with protein bars, for example, they're so small. It's easy for people to eat 2 or 3 in one go before they actually feel full. So I say, try something natural, such as raw unsalted nuts, and they're good for you. Those, or even nut butter. But again, try and find one that has just nuts in there, not nuts and everything else.
Yes, I hear you. I'm big on promoting what you're saying. Read the label. If you're trying to buy nut butter, then it should be the ingredients is that particular nut creamed into butter, not that nut plus sugar, plus salt, plus fat, plus preservative. Big difference. So yeah, I mean, diet is such an important part of our health. What about exercise? Do you work with exercise as well?
I'm not a personal trainer, so I wouldn't give them the exact exercises to do. But yes, that is part of the program, very much so. It's so important, helps your mood, sleep, and your eating habits. So I always encourage them to find an activity that they enjoy. Some people like going to the gym, which is brilliant because then you can have a personal trainer, not forever, but just have a personal trainer to give you some exercises that to start with. But
Right.
if you don't, do something outside, maybe at the weekend, find something enjoyable to do with friends. But the important thing is movement. So whether you're using the stairs or going out for a walk after dinner, is just keep moving.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking there's probably going to be a big difference in results between client one and client two here. Client one being the one who says, I'm not feeling optimal and my sleep isn't working so well. What do I do? And then they start to look at the food that they're eating, and they start to look at the fact that they're, not getting exercise, and then they look at improving their sleep hygiene, etc. That's client one. Client two is the one who says, I just want to improve my sleep. I don't want to have to change my diet. I enjoy all of my processed foods. I don't want to have to change exercise. I hate exercise. I don't want to have to stop smoking or stop drinking or any of these things. I just want you to improve my sleep. Well, there's probably going to be a big difference in results between client one and client two because sleep is not something that operates in a vacuum.
No, not at all. Exactly. When we're talking about sleep medications, being, they sedate you rather than actually help you to sleep properly. Alcohol I understand, it's also got that sedative effect.
Exactly. I was just writing an article about it where alcohol is great to put you to sleep as a sedative. The drawback is it doesn't help you stay asleep. It actually wakes you up in the middle of the night once it starts to process through your body and you get over those initial sedative effects. Now you get the back end part of it, which is waking up, having to use the bathroom, not being able to get back to sleep. So that's just not a good strategy if you truly want to get restful sleep. Alcohol is not the thing for you.
No. And of course, it has other, problems too, when it comes to health.
Yeah, yeah. So, so let's talk a little bit about some specific strategies that people might be able to put in place if they are finding that their life is so hectic that their sleep has become disrupted. In general, they're just not feeling good. They're feeling sluggish and lethargic, and maybe even some brain fog. And they come to you, and you start working with them. Give us some specific strategies that you would say they could start to put into place to improve things.
Um, I would always suggest having a consistent sleep time.
Hmm.
So wake up time and go to bed time. It's not easy, and with the days that we have. But try and get up at the same time every day, even at the weekend. And then in the evening, go to sleep at a certain time. And so your body will adjust to it, knowing when to go to sleep, and now I know I'm waking up. And the second thing I would suggest is when you get up in the morning, try and go out and get some daylight exposure, because that's that just your circadian rhythm to know that it's the day going ahead. And the third thing I would say, if you do happen to like coffee, I know a lot of people do, and in the morning it's really enjoyable. Um, Try not to have caffeine after 2 p.m. And I know some people say, but I can drink coffee till the evening. But I understand. But then, have they ever tried it? If they don't, would they actually sleep better? I'm personally very sensitive to caffeine,
Hmm.
and more so as I've got older. I don't know what's going on, and now I find that I can only have caffeine early in the morning. So definitely no caffeine after 2 p.m. And then the other one, as we talked about earlier, is to have dinner earlier in the evening. So leave a 3 hour window between the last meal and bedtime.
Right.
Again, alcohol, if you have to drink, try to have it earlier.
Hmm.
And I would also say definitely wind down time to have prepare yourself to sleep, for sleep. Wind down if you can. Put aside an hour before you go to sleep. Do things that are relaxing rather than stimulating.
Right.
And turn down your phone, no blue light exposure. And please, I always say, please, if you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night, don't check your messages. God.
Boy, what a way to create anxiety.
Oh boy, yeah, exactly. You never know what those messages may say. And then, of course, before you know it, you start going, and an hour later, you're still awake.
Right. Right.
It's not a
Oh
good
my
idea.
gosh.
Turn the phone off. I always say it's like putting your phone to bed. It's time for it to go to sleep too. It's been working all day for you. Put it away somewhere else that
Right.
you can't reach.
It's a great idea. We have beds for our dogs and our cats. We have a little bed that you put far away that your phone
Yeah.
gets tucked into at night, so you can't bring it into your bed.
Yes.
Wow, that is so true. So let me ask you this one: what do you do if the client comes in and they say, well, Tess, I find that I'm getting, tired at night and I'm not able to get all my work done and I have all this stuff I got to do. So I just drink these, energy drinks, the high caffeine energy drinks, because they really help me get my work done. But I'm having so much trouble sleeping. What do you tell them?
Well, then I try to explain to them about the caffeine in the energy drink. So I said to them, it's not a long-term solution. We need to find a way for him to actually go to sleep naturally and to actually stay awake all day and have the energy that he needs for his work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just a short-term fix, and that's not good. It's not sustainable. Eventually, he will burn out if he
Right.
keeps going.
Yeah, so it's you know, it's really, instead of being a short-term fix, it's a long-term problem, right? Because
Yeah,
caffeine
exactly.
has, like an average half-life of 6 hours. So they take in these massive amounts of caffeine and then have trouble sleeping later, which is a couple hours later. Well, because you've got all these stimulants in your body.
Yeah.
And that's the same issue with nicotine. Nicotine is a stimulant, so it's hard to sleep if you're putting stimulants in your system that are designed to keep you from sleeping.
So
So
would it be true to say that smokers, are actually under that effect all the time? Because smokers don't stop,
right,
3 hours
that's the
before they go to
challenge.
bed.
Yeah, so that's why I was saying before, it would be great for many different reasons if you didn't smoke at all. But if you are a smoker, we recommend that you try to at least time out so that the last cigarette you have, the last nicotine you use, is not close to bedtime, because since it's a stimulant, obviously it's going to impact your sleep.
Yes.
So, well, we actually have reached our time for today's episode. So I want to thank you, Tess, for joining us. It's been fantastic, and I appreciate all the information that you've been able to share. I'm jealous that you're sitting across the beach and I'm not. But thank you for joining us, and thank you everybody for listening in to Sleep Science Today. Please feel free to join www.sleepsciencetoday.com and join our mailing list so we can keep you up to date on all of our activities. You can see us on our YouTube channel at Sleep Science Today, and you can actually see Tess and I talking instead of just listening to our voices. And when you're there, drop a like and subscribe so that you get to know more and we get to get the message out further. So thank you for joining us in Sleep Science Today, and we'll see you on our next episode.
Thank you for listening to Sleep Science Today and learning how to sleep better with your host, Andrew Colsky, on UK Health Radio. For more information on how you can achieve better sleep, go to sleepsciencetoday.com. Remember, sleep science today and sleep better tonight.